If I were to ask, what is the most popular political affiliation amongst US voters, you may be inclined to debate between whether it's Democrats or Republicans. However, according to Gallup poll, when people were asked what party affiliation they consider themselves to be, 42% answered independent. As this number increases, why do campaigns need to care? Well, through my research, I found a US news source that explained how former President Trump won the independent vote by a 4-point margin in 2016. However, independents voted for Biden by a 13-point margin in 2020. This led me to my big question. What do campaigns need to do to make sure that they are reaching this large block of independent voters that are very influential when it comes to election results? I'm Ana Maria Pananis, and today I'll be talking about who the independent voter is and what campaigns need to do to appeal to them. So there are many characteristics and categories when it comes to who the independent voter is. There are those that say that they are always either Democrat or Republican leaning, or that they're not happy with any political party. But then there's also a more optimistic view, as the 530 article suggests, that they could be the more open-minded voter base. The research I found actually proves that there is a little bit of truth to each of these categories. However, it is important to keep in mind that not every voter fits every category or characteristic, and some may even overlap with one another. Now, I'd like to break down some of these independent voter categories and talk about what campaigns need to do to appeal to each of them. First, according to Pew Research Center, 81% of independents either lean Republican or Democrat. However, they are still more likely to be able to swing between party lines, unlike strong Democrat or Republican supporters. So, campaigns do not need to erase this from their image or identity to appeal to the independent voter. There are just varying degrees of relevance when it comes to the voter's decision making. Second, in 1954, Lazarsfeld, one of the founders of the two-step flow model, and his team wrote in their voter study that independents generally lack political knowledge and interest. If this is the case, then I suggest that campaigns can use the elaboration likelihood model, which was developed by Cacioppo and Petty in 1986. If these voters are considered to have low motivation ability, therefore low elaboration, then they will be more likely to be peripheral root processors. So campaigns will need to know how to strategically add elements in their advertisements and speeches, for example, that can catch the attention of these voters. Third, I'd like to talk more about voters who could be more open-minded or dissatisfied or a little bit of both. It actually doesn't quite matter as long as they care enough to pay attention. With their attention, we can use identification building. According to Dr. Vigil's book, Connecting with Constituents, this is about building points of connection. If campaigns are able to reflect their own open-mindedness or independence, rather, through their candidate by going against rigid party norms, then they could end up being able to create a really good bond with these independent voters. An example of this could be seen in 2015 with Donald Trump's 60-minute interview. He stated, and I quote, "Everyone's got to be covered. This is an un-Republican thing for me to say. I don't care if it costs me votes or not," end quote. By him saying this, he is reflecting some sort of independent ideal by going against that status quo. And through this, he caught the attention of many voters. Another example of this can be seen with Bernie Sanders in a slightly different way. He has run under the Democratic Party. However, he is an independent in the Senate. His ability to sway away from party norms and build connections through his ideals and policies has secured him a strong and growing voter base. So it goes without saying, knowing your audience is crucial in the world of persuasion. As the number of those who consider themselves independents increase, campaigns must know who those voters are. They must be ready to look ahead, step outside party norms, and find that voter that lies in between. If you have any questions, please drop them in the discussion post below. I'd be happy to answer them. Thank you so much for listening. Take care.